Okay, so at this point, we have all three of our site's pages created. But the only problem is that in order to navigate between the pages, we're still sort of forced to type in the URLs manually up here at the top of the browser, right? So to go to the cart, we got to type in cart. To go to the products, we have to go to /products. And to go to an individual product, we actually have to type in the ID of the product we want to view. Now, obviously none of that is considered good UI, so what we're going to do here is link together all of the pages in our application. And one of the main ways we're going to do this is by creating a navigation bar. So up at the top of our page, we have this 2 trees olive oil NAV bar. And right now, it's just a basic H1 heading that doesn't really do anything. So what we want to be able to do is click on this and have it take us to the products page. And we also want to have a button over here on the other side that will allow the user to view their cart. And one more thing that we're also going to see how to do here is link up our products in our list here so that we can just click on this button and go to the corresponding product detail page. But first things first, let's implement the NAV bar. So what we're going to do is open up our IDE here and, inside our components directory, right, currently our components directory has just been sitting empty while we've implemented our pages. Inside here, we're going to create a new file called navbar.view. Now since our NAV bar is going to be a component, and it's going to have the same main parts as the rest of our components, it's just going to have a template, and it's also going to have a script tag. And inside that script tag, we're just going to say export default. And that's going to be an object with the name property set to navbar. Alright, so now that we've added that, inside the template is where we get to define the basic structure for our navbar. So first things first, we're going to want to add the logo for our site. And by the way, that's one of the images that we added to our assets folder. So if you take a look at the logo hexagon file, well, it's not going to look like much here, but that's going to be the logo for our site, and you should be able to see that displayed in the browser. So what we're going to need to do in Vue in order to display an image is we're going to import that image the same way that we import any other kind of component or data. So we're going to say import logo from, and then we're going to say at /assets/logohexagon.svg. Now, you might be wondering what this thing is. Well, basically that just refers to the source directory of our project, and that makes it a little bit easier than having to type in the exact path using / especially once you start getting into deeper directory structures. So you can do that, by the way, with some of the other components. So for our shopping cart page, for example, instead of having to say /tempdata, since that's in our source directory, we could have just said it /tempdata. But we'll just leave that the way it is for now. And now that we have this logo, what we're going to need to do is make that data available to our template by adding a data method. Alright, so we'll say return, and then put logo as one of the properties that we're providing there. And then up in our template, we can now say for our navbar div. This is going to have the class of navbar. Alright, that's again, just for styling purposes. And once we've done that, we're going to add our logo. So inside a div here, we're going to say class equals logowrap. And then inside the div is where we're going to put the image with the src property. Remember to put that colon in front of it, because this is JavaScript data that we're referring to. We're going to say src equals logo. Okay, so that should display the logo for us. And after that, we're going to add a shopping cart button that will be displayed over on the right-hand side. So for that, we're just going to say button shopping cart. And that's all we need to do for that. So first of all, in order to display this NAV bar on all of the pages, we're going to need to open up our app component and import that component. This is actually the first time we've seen how to display components inside other components, but it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to need to say import navbar from its file, so at components or at /components. Rather, /navbar.view. And then we need to pass that as a property of this component's object. So this will make it available up here in our template. So now all we need to do is replace this 2 trees olive oil h1 heading with our navbar element, which looks like that. So all you need to do to display a component inside another component is import it, add it to this component's object, and then use that same string that you used for the property name inside an HTML tag like we did up here. Cool. So now that we added that to our app, let's take a look. And we should be able to refresh our app. And sure enough, we see that the logo and the button are both displayed, but the styling is a little bit off. And that's just because the styling is relying on these two things having links around them. So currently, these two buttons, right? The logo and the button don't do anything. And in order to make that happen, we're going to have to surround them with something called a router link, right? Router links in Vue basically just allow us to link two pages together. So what this is going to look like is inside our navbar component, we're going to wrap our logo wrap div with a router link. And that's what a router link looks like. It's just all lowercase with a dash, router link. And the router link takes a to attribute that allows us to specify what we want the path to change to when we click this router link element. So if we say to equals /products, clicking on this router link thing will take us to the products page. And that means, if we put this logo wrap div and image inside of that, clicking on the logo will now take us to the products page. And we can test that by going back to our front end and hitting refresh. And now if we click on this 2 trees olive oil logo, well, here, let's go to another page first. We'll go to our cart page, because currently we're already on our products page. So now if we click on our logo, sure enough, it'll take us back to our products page. So let's do the same thing now for our shopping cart button. We're just going to surround that with a router link and put the button inside of that. And now if we add the to attribute, we're going to want that to take us to /cart. Sure enough, we should be able to go back to the front end now and click on shopping cart. And that'll take us to the shopping cart page. So let's fix the styling here as well before we move on. We're just going to need to add the class of cart link to this router link element. And we're going to add the class of products link to our products router link. So we'll say class equals products link, and that should be inside the double quotes there. So now if we go back to our front end and hit refresh again, we'll see that those two things are in the correct place, so we can navigate between our 2 trees olive oil products page and our shopping cart just by clicking on these two parts of the navbar. Alright, so we've created our navigation bar, and that has allowed us to navigate between our shopping cart page and products page, but we still have yet to be able to link our products page to the product detail page. So here's what that's going to look like. We're going to open up the products page. Alright, so let's just close these here to clean up a little, and we'll open up the products page. And what we're going to do here is for this button, we're going to need to wrap that in a router link element. But the to attribute, right? The attribute that tells the router link where we want the user to go when they click on this thing, is going to have a dynamic value based on which product we're displaying. So that might sound a little bit complicated, but it's actually quite straightforward. So what we're going to do, first of all, is, as I said, we're going to wrap this link details element in a router link. And let's just put the button inside of there because we want the button to trigger this functionality when it's clicked. And then for the to property here, what we're going to do is set that to /products. And then here's where you're going to need to remember what we did earlier with the URL parameter, right? Remember that what comes after this is the ID of the product we want to view. So in other words, if we want to be able to click on an individual product and have it send us to /products/ with the product ID after it, what we're going to need to do is insert the product ID. Now, for whatever reason, this kind of trips people up as to how to do this. When you want to insert a product ID into a to attribute like this, all you need to do is add a colon to this and then use basic JavaScript logic to get what you want. So what we're going to do is inside these double quotes, we're going to add the string product, which we're going to express in single quotes, as you can see, to the product ID. So for that, we'll just say product.id, and that is all we need to do. So if we save this and go back to our front end, what we're going to do is go to our products page, and oops, let's just hit refresh here. For some reason, that didn't show up. So now if we click on view details for any one of these, it should take us to the corresponding product detail page for that product. So that's how we link all of the products on our products page to their corresponding detail page. Now that we've got all of our pages and the navigation bar working like we want them to, there's another thing that we probably want our application to have, and that's a so-called 404 page, right? Currently, if the user tries to go to a page that doesn't exist on our site, right? So if they try and go to /blah, blah, blah, like so, well, they're not going to see anything. And this is also true if they try and look up a product with an ID that we don't actually have a product for, right? So if we do /products/ and then some nonsense ID, well, we get the same result. So in both of these cases, what we're going to want to do is come up with a default page that will get displayed telling the user that yes, the site is working, they just went to an incorrect route. So what we're going to do here is open up our IDE. And inside this pages directory, we're going to create a new file called notfoundpage.vue. And this is going to have the same parts as the rest of our components. It'll have a template section, and actually that section's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to say h1 and we'll say 404, page not found as the text inside of there. So now that we've done that, we're going to add a script section. And all we have to do this is about as simple as scripts get is say export default. And then we're going to say name. And give this the name of not found page. Alright, cool. So now that we have our not found page, the way that we're going to make sure this is displayed on all of the routes that we don't have a current page for is going to look like this. We're going to open up our main.js file where we define all of our routes, and we're going to add another route to the bottom. And actually this is a little bit tricky because we need to make sure that this path matches everything except for these paths up above. And Vue actually makes us a little bit easier for us because it will only check this path if one of these routes hasn't already matched. But the path itself is going to look a little bit convoluted. Here's what it's going to look like. We're going to say / and then path match. And then in parenthesis asterisk closing parenthesis star. So don't worry too much about that. That's just a regular expression that will make sure Vue matches this on all other routes. And then for the component here, we're going to need to use our not found page, which of course we'll have to import up at the top by copying this and pasting it. And then we'll change it to not found page. Alright, and then we'll have to change the path as well to notfoundpage.vue. And hopefully now if we've done everything correctly, this will work. So let's make sure we've saved this file. And if we go back now to our frontend, what we're going to want to do is go to a nonsense route other than the products route. We'll see how to implement that one in just a minute here. But if we just type in some nonsense like so and hit enter, sure enough we'll see that it says 404, page not found, which is exactly what we want. Cool. So now what we're going to need to do is make sure that that page shows up on the products page when we don't have a matching product. So what that's going to look like is this. We're going to open up our product detail page. And inside the template here, the first thing we're going to want to do is make sure that we only display all of this content if we have a matching product, right? Currently, if we don't have a matching product, then product is going to be undefined, and that causes an error up here when we try and access those properties such as product.name, product.price, product.imageName, you get the idea. So here's what that's going to look like. We're going to start off by saying div and we're going to use the vif directive. And we're going to say that we only want to display this if we have a matching product. So we can just say div if product. And that's really all we need to do. So let's put all of this inside there. And what we're going to do after that is add another div that will display the not found page if we don't have a matching product. So what that'll look like is we're going to say div if, we're going to use that again, and then we'll say product. So we only want to display this part if the product does not exist. And inside here, we're going to need to display the not found page, which means that, first of all, we'll need to import the not found page by saying import not found page from /notfoundpage.vue. And now we'll need to add a components property to our component object down here that will tell it that we're going to want to display the not found page component inside of there. So let's add not found page like so. And oops, it looks like we lost the other closing curly brace. So let's add that back in. And now we can use the not found page as a tag up in our template. So let's just add not found page like so. And that should be all we need to do. So let's test this thing out. If we go to our front end and go to /products/123, right? So in other words, if we have a valid ID that matches a product, we should still see our product displayed otherwise, right? If we go to /product/ and then just sort of type random numbers there, we should see 404, page not found. So that's how to add the not found page. And one more thing I wanted to mention is that when we use vif like we've used up here, if we have something that's directly opposite this condition, right? Such as for vif product, we can use the velse directive instead, right? So velse just looks like this. We can say velse with no value, and that will display this div down here if the previous vif directive is false, right? So that's just an easy way to make sure that one of these two and only one of these two is getting displayed at any given moment. So let's just try that again, test it out. Make sure it still works. Sure enough, we see 404, page not found. And if we add in an ID that we actually have a product for, we'll still see the product. Okay, now that we've got our entire app set up, there are still a few more things that we should do in order to have our front end in the best possible shape. You may have noticed that when we were building our products page and shopping cart page, that the templates for both of those components were a little bit complex. And let me just open those up so I can show you what I'm talking about in a little bit more detail. We have our products page and our shopping cart page, and sure enough, if you look at the structure here, there's quite a bit of complexity going on. Now, generally, what we want instead is for our components templates to be dead simple, and especially for our page components. And besides that, we also want each of our components to be reusable. Alright. Now in our case, the way that we can improve both the products page and the shopping cart page components is by splitting out the lists that they can contain as well as the items in those lists into their own components. So in other words, what we're going to do is take this list, right? Our product container with the v for directive down, and we're going to split that out into a separate reusable component. Alright, so this can be done for both our shopping cart page and our products page. And in this video, we're just going to do the products page. The shopping cart page will be a challenge for you later on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new file to hold this new component that we're going to be using, and we'll call this component something like productslist.vue. Okay. Now this component is going to be pretty similar to the other page components that we've created, except obviously it's not going to be a page, it's going to be just a simple reusable piece that we can add to our pages. So let's add a template section and a script section. And the script section is going to look much like the script section for our pages. It's going to have a name property, of course, which will be products list. Alright, so that's the script section for our products list. So up in our template, our products list is actually going to be very simple. We're just going to go over to our products page and copy the product item div, right, the div with the v-for directive. We're going to copy that whole thing and we're going to put that into our products list like so. And actually we'll want the grid wrap div as well. So we'll just copy that and paste that around our v-for directive div like so. And then we'll close off that div by saying /div. There we go. And let's just adjust the indentation here real quick. And there we have it. Cool. So at this point we have the same structure that we used to have in our products page. And actually what we can do now is remove this entire grid wrap div from our products page. And if we take a look at our products list, we're still referencing this products array. So what you might be wondering at this point is, where are we actually going to get this products array from, right? Where is all of this data going to come from? Well, what we're going to do here is use something called props in Vue. And basically props are sort of openings in our Vue components that we can pass data into from parent components. So, just like HTML elements are able to have attributes that we can change, right? The ref attribute on an anchor tag, for example, right? Components have props that we can pass data through. So here's how props work in Vue. The first thing we're going to have to do is add a props property to our products list component. And that's going to be an array with a string called products as an element, right? So what this defines is the kind of props, right? The exact prop names that this products list component will accept from a parent component. And now that we've done that, all we need to do is go back to our products page. And since we have our products list in its own separate component now, we should be able to just import that. So we'll say import products list from, then it's going to be /components/productslist.vue. And now we're going to need to add a components property to our products page component with products list as one of the properties. Cool. So now that we have that, we should be able to just add the products list underneath the H1 heading in our template. So we'll say products list. And here's where we're able to pass this products prop down to our products list, right? This one that we define here. What we're going to do is simply say products equals products. And since we want to pass the specific product array here down as the value of this products prop, we need to add the little colon before that, right? Because we're accessing the value of a variable from our component in the script section. And that is how we define and pass props in Vue. So now that we have that added, what we should be able to do is go back to our front end and let's hit refresh just to make sure we have an up-to-date site running. And if we go back to our products page now, oh, it looks like that doesn't work. And that's just because inside the products list component we accidentally added this extra div tag. So I can delete that and we should be able to go back and hit refresh. And there we go. We have all of our products displayed, but they're now displayed using a reusable component. So what this means is that if we wanted to display the same products list on another page, for example, our shopping cart page, or if we wanted to add a homepage to our site with, for example, the most popular products on our site, we would be able to just reuse this same list and pass down whatever products we wanted it to display. So anyway, that's how to create a reusable component in Vue and display it inside a page.